Hello, Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. We're here every Monday, somewhere between 8 and 9, here to break down storylines related to the Knicks. If you haven't already, please subscribe, hit that notification button so you'll be notified anytime anything goes live here on the Nothing But Knicks channel. That includes this show, Queen's Court, The Controversy, The Crossover, the NBA Report with Ron and John from Still Nick Fans, and of course, anything that Simeon Russell, the creator of this channel, puts out. We're in the Keep 'em or Dump 'em series. So look out for that. I think we did RJ Barrett, we did Fournier. We got a few more players, so definitely watch out for that series. Today we're going to talk about the Knicks. We're going to talk about the Knicks roster, try to figure out what path, we don't really know, but guess what path the Knicks are going to go in. Are they going to run it back? Are they gonna, get off of the veterans, go with the young guys? Are they gonna bring in players to improve the team? And the last option, which I think is the least likely option, would be to swing for the fences. I don't even know if it's that type of player out there that's going to be able to change the Knicks' fortunes. I'm joined by Eru from Die Hard Knicks podcast. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. I had to jump on with you, man, because I'm, you know me, I do shotgun podcast, man. So I was trying to get mine together, but I couldn't get it together. And then you popped in, so I said, hey, let me just hang out with Steph for tonight.
I appreciate it. I'm glad you were available. Before
Yeah,
we get into that topic, I just want to talk about some knickknacks, Nick rumors, brief Nick topics, just to get your take on a few things. Um, I'm not sure. I didn't get your take on what you think about Brunson, but Dallas. The news is that they may not cooperate in a sign and trade. Right? The Knicks don't have any cap space. So the Knicks would need a sign and trade, or they would need to free up space in order to bring him in. What's your take on Brunson? I'm just interested and basically on him as a player, but also how he fits in whatever you think the direction of the Knicks team is.
well, for me, everything starts and ends with Tom Thibodeau because it's like what offense are we running? You know, what are we going to be looking like when we get here? So if he was to trade for Brunson, who are we trading to get him to number one? So let's say we get him here, what happens with Quickly? Is Quickly a part of the trade? You know, so I mean, Quickly has the connection with Obi. You know, he
Yes.
knows the rest of the roster. He's familiar with everybody here. He was drafted by Tom Thibodeau as well. So I
Hmm.
mean, now you get rid of him and then bring in Brunson. How does this all play out? Because also too, I compare Brunson to Kemba. You know, just the way that they came into the league, similar style of play. You know, not really long, short arms. You know, everything is like herky jerky. Type of
Hmm.
moves and stuff. So I feel like they're very similar. So like and also he's younger. But
Right,
how
right,
does
right.
somebody like that fit in with what Tom Thibodeau's trying to do there with the Knicks? That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I remember the video you put out on Kimba and how you didn't think the Knicks, and I tend to agree, weren't using him. Tibbs wasn't using him to his strengths, and just you broke it down like different plays in which he excelled, in which he did well, and the Knicks weren't playing that way. And I do remember that when the ball was in his hands and the Knicks were doing the pick and rolls, he flourished. When you're taking the ball out of his hands and you putting it in the hands of at that time it was Randall. I don't think RJ had popped at that time. He just didn't do as well. So you bring up a very good point. If you bring in Brunson, whatever point guard you bring in, are you willing to put the ball in his hands? That's an excellent point.
Yeah, and then it's a price too. You're gonna have to pay him $30 million probably, or whatever whatever his
Oh,
number is.
I
You're
hope
gonna have
it's
to pay
not
him a
30.
big, you know, it's not 30, but
Yeah,
it's a big price tag that he's
right,
gonna get. So
right,
once you pay him that money, now the pressure's on him, and now you have to use him. The pressure's on everybody.
right.
So potentially it could be a bad situation where if he start the season and like the way that we started this season, where Tom Thibodeau doesn't have a clue what to do, then he
Mhm.
gets fired, and then now we're stuck in limbo with new players and stuff. That's something I don't really want no parts of.
Yeah, you bring in a good point. And I think the other thing in terms of expectations and it not working out, Brunson is not Colin Sexton. Like he's not a John Wall. He's not that type of point guard. So if you're expecting him by himself to come in and score 20 and 10 and dominate the ball. That's not who he is. And you're right. If the fans are expecting that, they're gonna be disappointed. The boos are gonna start, and it could be a fiasco. He is somebody that you have to put him with a team around him in order for him to be successful. Similar to Lowry, similar to Brogdon, similar to a Van Vliet. They're not gonna carry a team by themselves.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good point. What do you think about this? And maybe you've heard this. I've never heard this. That on draft night, Dallas offered Brunson the 18th and 31st pick for the eighth pick because they wanted Halliburton, and the Knicks said no.
Really? Uh,
That's yeah. I read that today. This was back in 2020.
you know what? That sound. I feel like I've seen that before. Would I have done that? That's the question.
In hindsight, right? Hindsight is
Yeah,
2020.
yeah. Hindsight is 2020. I think I would have did that. To tell you the truth. But I mean, yeah, I don't know, man. There's so many different ways to win. I like I
Yeah,
still like the draft pick from Obi Toppin, but it's just the matter of fact of getting guys assimilated into what you're trying to do offensively.
right.
We have a whole big roster, but Tom Thibodeau chooses to use Burks as the point guard when we have like so many other options at point guard to use.
Yeah.
And there's so many different ways to get Julius Randle off offensively, but he chooses just to let him pound the ball to death. You know, it's sickening to me. We need to do better. But now we're stuck here trying to figure out how we're going to stick new guys into this mess.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point because if they stand pat, and we'll talk about this more later on, something has to change. Like I think Randall has shown, at least to me, he's not a primary ball handler.
Right.
Like he's just not. His decision making, the turnovers, the hard passes, you know. But I've said this before: can you put the genie back in the bottle? Can you go from him playing that way to saying, "Nah, we need you to go back to just being a power forward." Anyway,
Well, let
any
me let me
go
let
ahead.
me let me throw this at you with the Brunson thing. What do you think about Detroit? Because Detroit actually has cap space, so they could straight up steal Brunson straight up,
Correct.
and Brunson along with Kate Cunningham. That kind of makes more sense because you made the point that Brunson needs to be with the second ball handle. He needs to be with a team or whatever. But I mean they have a young team building there. They still
Right.
got Sims' cousin over there. I forgot his name. On
Who's
Detroit.
that? Jerry McGrant.
Nah, what's the rookie? Let me get it together here. This is Sim's cousin. What's that? Sadiq Bey, excuse me.
Sadiq Bey. I like Sadiq Bey.
Yeah, Sadiq Bey is
I
good. So I mean, you got Sadiq, they got a bunch of guys over there. So I mean,
Yeah,
you add
yeah,
Brunson to that squad, just straight up, just money wise, that could work too. So it's interesting.
yeah. And the interview with his father, Rick Brunson, said he's not giving Dallas any discount.
Yeah.
He's not giving New York a discount either. And even though Leon Rose's son is his agent, it's about what's best for Jalen. And the question was, how does he fit with the Knicks? And that's going to be the question as well. How does he fit, with Detroit? So it's not a gimme. He's not just going for the money as well. He's going for fit. So it's going to be interesting. Shout out to the chat: Shy Powers, Keith Turner, T. Williams, Dark Matter, Ross Seven. Anybody else? I forgot. Sherwin M. Good evening. Um, what's your thoughts about Spike Lee being at the Brooklyn game cheering for them? Can you be a fan of both the Knicks and the Nets?
Well, we was talking offline, man. I also made a podcast about Spike a while back. I feel like he's like people make him the mascot of the Knicks, like he's like the number one fan. That always irked me. You know what I'm saying? Because after all these years of him being a fan, like I don't want to put this in his brain now. Now he's going to use it because every time I say something, it always comes true. That he's never done nothing for us fans, for us to put him on that pedestal. Oh, Spike Lee's the number one guy, whatever. But he's never like Simmons done more for fans than Spike Lee has ever have. Yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? As far
yeah,
as
no doubt.
get-togethers and things like that. Spike Lee has the power and stuff to do stuff like that. So for him catching the attitude with the MSG, that whole fiasco back then, it's kind of like puts a bad taste in my mouth. But just for when I first saw him clapping, because I didn't watch the game. I watched the second half a little bit. But anyway, it's not like I'm like sitting there watching because I would really want to see what's happening or whatever. But just seeing the highlights of Spike Lee clapping and all this. If you look closely, he had on the Brooklyn Dodgers outfit. He still had a Knicks chain on. He had Knicks bracelets. You know what I'm saying. So I don't know. Like so just to get what you're
Maybe
saying,
just repping Brooklyn
yeah,
as opposed to the Nets, just repping Brooklyn.
yeah, just repping Brooklyn, man. Like I get long winded too, but you say like the Yankees and the Mets, right? I'm a Yankees fan, but if the Mets made it to the World Series, I would cheer for the Mets because
Right,
there's no
right,
beef in between
right,
the two teams. I don't understand why there has to be that. That's what irks me about the way that Brooklyn came into New York. They came in there like they were just going to take it over.
right,
That's not how we rock in New York City.
right. Yeah, yeah. I don't really. I don't think you can be both a Nick and Net fan, but I do agree with you, especially with the Yankees and Mets. Maybe because I'm not a big baseball fan, but I'm thinking if the Nets made it to the championship game, would I root for them? Probably not. Probably, probably not. Probably not.
Yeah,
Um,
and then it's weird too because it's Brooklyn and Celtics. It's
right,
been a lot of years in between the rivalries and stuff because the Knicks haven't been good. While they were good. But so there is no rivalry, so you can't really like get mad at somebody if they want to root for Boston or Brooklyn because there really is no ties to either one because the Knicks haven't been good during the times when those teams were good.
right,
When we were good and those teams were bad, nobody cared during that time from what I remember. The
right,
Knicks used to smack the Nets every year, and the Knicks used to smack the Celtics, during the
right,
Ewing era. So
right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the last one before we get into the topic of the hour, Carmelo Anthony more likely to sign with Brooklyn um, um, than the Knicks. Listen, I know the fan base don't want Carmelo Anthony back here, and the only reason I would want it is if we're gonna keep Randall, he would be a role model in terms of how do you handle, playing in New York City. But Carmelo could still ball a little bit. I think in like 20 minutes he averaged like what 12 points, 14 points or something like that. So he may still want to play. And knowing Tibbs,
oh my god.
Tibbs can you imagine what it would be like if he played Carmelo over Cam Reddish?
That's what's happening though. Tom Thibodeau is a madman. I feel like he would start Melo and make Julius the center, and then give he is out of control. He must be stopped. But there's nothing we can really do because they're not getting rid of him. I don't know. Julius Randle was at the Dallas game, so I don't know what the Knicks are doing, man. But I mean, if they went and signed Carmelo Anthony, I think I would have to take a break for a little while.
For a little while.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like what they're saying is that he's more likely to sign with Brooklyn than with New York. So you could still continue watching the
Yeah,
Knicks. Yeah,
I could see him going to Brooklyn because I mean he's from Brooklyn. It'll be fun because his son is in Christ the King and stuff, so he could be in New York a little longer to watch his
right,
kid and
right.
stuff like that. So I think that would be dope. Just to keep
And
an
you
eye on
could
the son.
argue have a chance to win, but then after watching Brooklyn, um, I'm not sure what the score is now, but when I started the show, it was entering the fourth, and they were down. Um, will he have a better chance to win? On Brooklyn, I guess it depends on what they do in the off season.
Right. Like people were talking about Durant and his legacy and stuff like that. So I mean, Carmelo Anthony, if he doesn't win a championship in his career, his legacy is already solidified. So it's not really gonna do anything for his legacy. But if he does chase a championship, or if he does get one with Brooklyn, or vice versa with Durant and stuff. So right now, in this part of their career, I think it's just more fun. So I don't know. Melo, not for nothing, Melo should just retire to tell you the truth. But I mean, I could see him coming to the Nets and really having like a nice little, you know, coming, just like a swan song kind of like, you know,
Right.
I could see him doing that.
Yeah. All right. Let's move into this topic. Really the Knicks have a few options in terms of what they're going to do going into next season, right? So I don't know if you got a chance to see the article by Bobby Marks of ESPN.
Mhm.
It's an insider. It's an insider article. You have to pay for it, but he also did a video. So the options I see is the Knicks running it back. They don't have much cap space. They do have flexible contracts. Maybe they'll be able to trade, but think about it. Do they have any value? Burks may have kicked his value up toward the end of the season. How much value does Noel have, who played 26, 25, 26 games? How much value does Rose have, who played 25 games and didn't come back in enough time to prove he was healthy? You know what I mean? So the Knicks have these contracts that are expiring, but what are their value? you know so the Knicks may not have a choice but to run it back, right? They don't have any cap space. The other option is to go young, and we'll get into it more, but this is the thing. If you trade Randall, Fournier, um, Noel, you got to bring players back,
Right.
and that just further crowds those spots unless you're bringing back expiring contracts and draft picks. For the most part, you're going to bring back players. So I'm not sure how you are, you know, creating space for players to play by trading them. You're going to be bringing back more players as well. The other option is to improve the roster and try to take next steps. So, in other words, who can you trade for that you think will upgrade the roster, right? So these are kind of the options. And the last one, which is least favorable for me, is swinging for the fences. I don't even see any swing for the fence player out there. And even if the Knicks were to bring in a superstar, we need like two or three of them. Like, this roster is just not ready. You can bring in KD; it's just not ready to go anywhere. In the Eastern Conference in terms of championship contention. So I'm not even sure how you would swing for the fences. But the argument from running it back, we'll take them in turn. Bobby Marks broke this down. He said last year, the Knicks. Oh, let me see. I think that's Tony. Well, before I start, let me bring in Tony. Well, if he's ready, he can bring himself. He can bring himself in when he's ready. Um, So the argument for running it back. So Bobby Mark said last year the difference was that the Knicks were able to close. So when they were down 5 points or less with 5 minutes to go, they were 20-16. They won 20 games, they lost 16. This year in those same situations, they're 18-26. So in those 5 minutes when they were in the game, poor free throw shooting. I think Rose not being in the game helped, probably hurt us as well in terms of closing down the stretch. Randall hit big games for us down the stretch last year. He was missing in action, not just in the stretch, but in a lot of games, period. We lost 8 games after leading by 15 and 4 games after leading by 20 or more, which is the most in NBA history, right? So, in other words, if you can fix those things, you might be okay. Your thoughts on possibly running it back, and we'll get into the other options in turn.
Well, I want to say
Tony.
what's up, Tone. What's good, Tone? Good to see you guys, man.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
definitely.
running it back and going young is kind of like goes hand in hand because if we run it back, we have the
Hmm.
I feel like we have all the answers that we need to kind of like go forward. We have everything on the roster. Because like if you want to talk about trades and stuff like that, like for all the people that people hate, let's say like Dirk Rose contract, people don't like his contract. Alec Burks, Nonas Noel, it's going online to everybody that that doesn't like even Julius Randle. You're talking about close to $80 million worth of salary. Like you said, you have to bring guys back. You just can't trade the guys and then play the young guys. You still got the salary to deal
Right.
with. So that's still a lot of salary. So anyway, just as far as the running back thing, I think we could, but it has to do with changing how Tom Thibodeau does the substitutions because
Right.
you can start Julius Randle, you maybe Cam Reddish can get pushed up to the, but I mean we have to believe that Cam Reddish is going to make that push. Then Mitch, if we bring Mitch back, and then we can't have Burks as the starting point guard. That's crazy to me. Quickly would have to be the starter, I guess, and then you got RJ. So I mean, like you would have to implement Obi into this. Obi would have to be the first forward. Get rid of Mitch and then put Julius at the center. So Obi and Julius can be Obi could be the guy that releases and Julius can be the trailer. That would make
Hmm.
sense.
Mhm.
But it really has to do with the game plan of whatever Tom wants to do. So you can make sense out of any of these situations, but I think running it back might be like the just the easiest and probably like because since we have so many guys that are good and that
Mhm.
need time and that we believe in,
Mhm.
running it back might be just the best option to go for.
So before I get to Tony, what I'm hearing from you is run it back with some tweaks. Run it back with quickly at the point guard. Run it back playing Randall and Obi and Obi together. Run it back but with a similar or same roster, but just do things a bit differently. This is the question I have for you before I get to Tone. Any concern, because I thought about this, any concern that Quickly wouldn't be able to be himself in a starting lineup with RJ and Randall because they're so ball dominant? Like he would have to kind of defer to them and that it might impact his game a bit?
Well, I mean, like these guys are all basketball guys, man. So they need to get into the gym together and communicate. And just Tom Thibodeau always talking about film. He said that he got to watch the game 3 or 4 times and all this nonsense. So let's say he got the whole summer to watch games all as much as he wants, right? So I mean, the only thing that matters to me is the last few games. Look at how quickly was playing and understanding how you can take advantage of what quickly brings and what Obi brings. So you see that and you incorporate it into what you're trying to do here. Julius Randle pounding the ball into triple teams, and this type of thing is not the answer. He's done it all year. He did it last year. It worked. This year, he just did it all year to a fault. So how much more tape do you need to watch to know that that does not work? So what worked actually was what was happening at the end of the season. So as a good coach or anybody like that, any of us here, Sim especially, and shout out to Andy and these guys, man. You can could see the talent in certain players, and you can work the offense in such a way to take advantage of certain guys. One last thing with Mark Jackson, right? Mark Jackson invented that play for Klay Thompson and Curry. Where he had the guys going around the screen and then popping up for the
Right.
three. He invented that play to get his players open. So I mean, like that's what coaches do. Coaches, they're, because I mean, this is a pro league. So these guys don't need to be taught how to do anything. These guys are pros. So what you need to do as a coach is to organize what they do well, and try to take advantage of our advantages against the other team, man. So if Tom Thibodeau did that, then we would be so much better off. You know.
Okay. Okay. Tone, salute. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully you wasn't running and sweating and
Hey,
trying to get
I,
here.
I took the little throughway so I could drive a little faster.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
I'm
Appreciate it.
sorry I was late.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm answering the
Yeah, like there's a few options, but we were taking them in turn. Run it back, go young, some improvements, and then the last one, swing for the fences, which I don't think there's anybody out there to swing for the fences. But in terms of running this team back, and I was just going through the article that Barbie Marks wrote about the different things that were different this season, which is why the Knicks lost, and one of them was
yeah,
difficulty closing
spot
um,
on.
those games. So, just in terms of running it back, what's your thoughts on that?
All right, it's definitely not my preference, but I'm content if that's the direction of like I already prepared myself mentally if that's what it is. And I still believe if we run it back, obviously that's saying minus Kimba, I believe, right?
Probably,
So
probably.
with that assumption, I do believe we would be a better team just with the same exact guys coming back. I think number one, uh, Bobby Marks spot on because I've been saying all year if Rose was in these games, that would have been the difference in us closing the majority of the games, and that's what he did when he was here last year. If you want to talk about variables, that's one of the main variables. Obviously, with the two guys who left are different, but he's still on the team, but wasn't there to do what he did last year, which was literally close the game. Is somebody that Randall respected enough to where he can make the decision and then feed Randall and say, you know what I mean? All right, you close. Feed RJ here, you close. Feed Burks here, you close. Oh no, I got this one. And I think if Rose was here, we would have been a better team.
Right. I mean, in terms of running it back, that's probably my second option, and we'll get into like upgrading the team a little, a little. That's probably my second option. But Ero brings up a good point. How can we maximize this roster if we do run it back? And, you know, as much as I think Quickly is better with the ball in his hand playing free, because remember, when he hit those triple doubles, I believe both RJ and Randall were out, I believe. So he had that freedom to just kind of play how he wanted to play. He didn't have to defer too much. But to Ero's point, you're a basketball player. So if you're a basketball player, even if RJ and Randall is in the game and you can't play the exact way you would
Mm-hmm.
play, it happens all the time. It happens with Chris Paul. When
Mm-hmm.
Book is in the game and whatever, he plays different. Then when Book is out, he knows he has to score more. So I think it would be the same thing with Quick, right? Those guys would have to eat first. You get whatever you can coming back off of them. And if they're ever out of the game or whatever, that's when you step it up. So yeah, that's a good point. You basketball play, you just have to learn how to um,
And
adjust.
I think quickly has closed enough games with these guys, you know, to know how to play with them. And to be honest, I the more quickly he plays with them, I see RJ and Randall both defer to him at times, look for him at times. So it's not like he has to change anything. It's kind of like what I was saying about Deuce and him coming in and playing hesitant, and he has to come up, and any minutes he get, he has to have the same mindset he has in the G League.
Hmm.
He don't have to have the same performance. I don't think he'll have the same performance,
Right,
but the mindset has to be the same,
right,
and play as if you have the freedom to make the right decision. Is it because that's what it boils down to? Tibbs always says it. Find a way to impact the game. So I think you can literally say that to every single player,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's not going to be the same impact. It's different for each player, but just find a way to impact the game. But
I want to mention.
my bad. You did make a great point about Tibbs and him kind of utilizing them in the right way, or utilizing them in their strengths. I think he's done it more quickly.
hmm,
I think his eyes are opened up to Obi now, and and that's just based off his last press conference.
right,
Well, what I wanted to say was going on with back basically what you said just now. Just giving that up to Obi. Obi said like he doesn't have to look over his shoulder no more. He can just play whatever. See, I mean that goes to the point where guys just need to come and just play. You're a professional. You need to just play the game. Don't worry about, oh, this guy, he's gonna take me out if I make a mistake. You just gotta just play. What's the difference between Julius being there and whatever? Now Tom Thibodeau has no one else to sub in for you. So why did that change your game? I just don't get it. So
right,
these guys got to figure out what it is to be a pro. They're not afraid. We all know that they're self-made guys. These guys are they're proven it in certain situations they can produce. Like you said with this week Bride and this that, and the other. Quentin Grimes as well. Shout out to him too. But if these guys could figure out the nice sweet spot to just play basketball and don't necessarily worry about all the other nonsense. But another thing too, Derrick Rose brought this up. It's very hard to play with Tom Thibodeau because he curse you out and this, that, and the other. Not everybody responds to that type of coaching all the time. Like you could do something really good, but then he's worrying about something that you did 7 plays ago. And then that could do something to your confidence. So I get it with these young guys. You have to be different nowadays with these players.
yeah. I mean, you could say it both ways. Like a part of me, it feels like Quickly don't care what, and I understand every player is different. Quickly don't care what Tip. I heard Tip say no, 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 no. He still took the shot. I'm
Yeah.
like, man, like he on his own thing. But I get it. Every player, is different, and some of the better coaches are able to realize what a player can take and what a player can't take. But I would like Obi to kind of be more confident whether Randall is there, Randall is there or not, because trust me, with the Knicks fans, they can turn in a minute. And if he don't have that stiff spine, he's going to have a hard time if things turn. He's going to have a
I mean,
difficult time.
I mean, I'll say two things about that. One, good for him because I think Obi kind of already went through it. You know what I mean? Coming off season one,
Mm-hmm.
the consensus was not the same as this year. You know what I mean? It was a
Right.
lot of fans out there
Right.
that was calling him a bust, saying it was a bad pick, saying he's not going to amount to a lot, etc., etc., etc. And I'm pretty sure he heard all that as well.
Right. Right.
So I think at the very least, moving forward, whenever the time comes, he has a bad performance, blah blah blah, and the fans go at him. I think he already dealt with it once before, and I think dealing with it as a rookie is probably the best way to go through it. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
now you building up that tough skin from the jump.
Right.
Um, Back to the other point though, it got me so upset when a lot of fans they heard Obi's comments about him, not having the confidence and looking over his shoulder, and then automatically just blame it Tibbs. See, I told you it's Tibbs. No, the players have to. You can't worry about all that. It don't matter what team you on. Like at some point, you're gonna have to block out all the nonsense, all the noise, all the positioning, and just play basketball, like Eva was saying. And that was the point I was trying to make back then. But a lot of people didn't really get it. So I'm glad you explained it probably better than I did.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you really got to just play basketball. You can't look over your shoulder. You can't worry about that because everything's gonna handle itself in
Yeah.
time.
Right.
Play your best, and if you don't make it there, you're gonna someone's gonna see it and gonna want to trade for you. You know what I mean, or
Yeah.
give you a big contract. So
Right.
just you can't worry about that stuff.
Yeah, the cream always rises to the top. That's why I don't believe that bringing in one player can stunt your growth. I just don't believe it. Now, you might not get the opportunity to show what you can do because you're sharing minutes with a guy, or a guy is getting more minutes than you, but that you're not going to grow and develop because somebody else is getting more minutes. I just can't. It's just hard for me um to get that.
Basic basketball. Like, you just bring it down to street ball. Oh, I got next. You got next. You got a squad together, whatever. You're not gonna defer to other guys. If a guys keep shooting threes and this, that, and the other, or if everybody's on the outside, nobody's on the inside. Somebody got to go inside. You just go inside. You just play. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You just play. If you notice that there's no ball handler, then guess who's the ball handler? You are. You,
Right.
you just play. So like all the stuff worrying about who's looking over your shoulder. If you're playing the game and you're losing, and if it's like a packed park, you're gonna be looking over your shoulder because you ain't gonna play the rest of the day if you don't win. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's
Right.
basic basketball. So I just that's what irks me about what we're seeing here with our players, man. They shouldn't have to be looking over their shoulder because that's basic basketball. If you want to continue to play, you're gonna have to show up. You can't be like,
Right.
oh man, the reason why I didn't get my shot off, this guy kept shooting all these threes. But you gotta be able to get yourself in the game and make an impact if you want to win,
Right.
if you want to stay on the court.
You be like, I'm gonna get all the offensive rebounds then. And they
Exactly.
look like they not
Yeah,
Yep.
passing the
And
ball
that
to me.
I was just about to say that, Queen. Like because I used to be that kid. Yo, I can't get a shot. All right, I guess I gotta go get the rebound.
yeah.
Defensive or offensive. If it's
Right.
defensive, I mean, yeah, if it's defense, I'm just bringing it all the way up the court, and you know what I mean, finding my shot that way.
Playing
But
intramurals, man. I'm only 5'10", right? So you playing a game with a bunch of guys. The point guard is 6'3". You know what I'm saying? But I'm 5'10", so what? 6'3" guy is the point guard running the point. Then you got like the next biggest guy, 6'2" or whatever. Who's inside? Me, 5'10". So like, I was like, what the hell? So I mean, you got to do what you have to do. If this guy wants to do that, you just have to just figure it out. You
Right.
just have to figure it out, or at least like show your skills. That way they can see that you're running with them. And then you know what I'm saying. This is
Yeah,
stuff
no
that you
doubt.
do on the
No doubt.
fly in basic basketball, but this is professional. This is professional on sports. So that disconnect with what's happening on the court. That's something that needs to be figured out. Because that's to me it's just basic elementary basketball. Just the
Yeah.
all that connection there.
Yeah, that's true too. But back to your point about how the Knicks can maximize this roster if they do decide to run it back. There's a few areas too. Even when you think about Fournier, he's more than a 3-point shooter, but
Right.
that's the role he's pretty much been pressed in, on this team with RJ handling the ball, Randall handling the ball. He can do a little playmaking himself too. He could put the ball on the floor as well. Is there ways that the coaching staff and Tibbs can maximize his usage next year? Now, starting Randall and RJ, not excuse me, Randall and Obi, not starting them, but playing them together at times. There's negatives to that. There's positives to that, in terms of, rebounding perhaps and rim protection. But I just go back to those D'Antoni teams. You may give up something on the defensive rebounding end, but it's what's the net difference? Because if you're scoring and you're getting out in transition and you're playing so fast that the defense is not really hurting you, that much, and that team, I don't know, is a net 8, it might be worth going. You might have gotten out rebounded during that time, but overall you were net positive.
I think
That's just something for the Knicks to think about.
I think I really believe Tibbs already thought about it. Like I think he been thought about it.
Hmm.
I think I think he's serious when he be like, "Yo, did you watch the game 3 times and all that stuff?"
Hmm.
Because the first thing he said was, at the last game or whatever, he said, "Well, that means we're committing to outscoring teams." You
Right.
know what I mean? And
Right.
and so he understands it
Right.
100%. It's giving up rebounds and it's giving up interior defense, which is one of our strengths
Right.
as a team, right? So at that point, I think he understands he's going to have to change his whole coaching philosophy defensively, and now it's going to have to be protect the 3-point line at all costs. We know what we're giving up, down low, but still figure out schemes of how to mitigate it at the very least.
Right.
But he, you know what I mean? That's two of the most important things as Tibbs internally as a coach, rebounding and the protecting the rim.
Hmm.
So I think it's really hard for him. Like we may see it in short spurts just because he knows
Hmm.
what Obi is capable of, and
Right.
obviously we got to see it how they actually fit and work together.
Right.
But I think he'll try it at the very least now, but it's really going to be based off of performance. So it's up to them to kind of make it work where
When
he
they
go,
do get that
yeah,
opportunity.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
I mean, the other way it can work, and I'm interested in your opinion. Again, we still talking about running back. We'll get to the other options a little later. We talking 4-5. What about 3-4? Now, I don't think Obi can play the 3. I just don't think he has the footwork to defend defend the 3. He struggles even defending the 4 out in space. Randall has the footwork, but the energy, the motivation, the engagement to do it consistently for that 5, 6, 7 minutes, however long they're gonna do it. But I'm interested in your opinion on it. And offensively, I don't know if Randall could play the 3. He can't shoot the 3. His mid range is inefficient as well. But when you see them playing together, do you think playing them 4-5 is better, or playing them 3-4 and keeping that rim protector there?
I'll say honestly, it's based off the matchup. It's based off the other team. Now, give me a game where Sabonis is playing the 5, then absolutely I'm throwing Randall at the 5. You know what I mean? But if a team has a big lineup where if it's Philly and Harris is playing the 3,
Hmm.
then I might put Randall at the 3. You,
Right.
you know what I
Understood.
mean?
Understood. Hmm.
So I think it's feasible, but it has to be based off what lineup is on the floor. And again, Tibbs is the person that
has
He's
to be
not gonna.
comfortable getting out of his comfort zone
He's
to
not
be
gonna
able
adjust.
to do it that way.
He's not gonna adjust to a lineup because the lineup is there. He may adjust to it after that lineup is killing us. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
not gonna see. All right, this is the starting lineup. Let me change my starting lineup because of
Right,
their starting lineup.
right, right,
He's
right,
only gonna do it if it's sometime throughout the game, and unfortunately, it's probably gonna be when it's too late, like late. You know what I mean? Like a big
right,
a 20-point deficit or something.
right,
Well, with this whole thing, like with good teams, like they're able to switch up what they're gonna do according to what's happening. Like, and also too, like say like even like we mentioned DAntoni. DAntoni didn't care about who's out there. DAntoni is like, okay, listen, Sean Marion, you're the power forward. Amari Stoudemire, you're the center, and we're just gonna punch these guys straight down their throats and make them stop us. You know what I'm saying? But the difference with the Knicks is that we could go big, like you said, we could have Randall out there with OB and a center. We could do that if we want to. If we wanted to dominate the guys physically, potentially, but at least still have a little bit of athleticism to still get back down. So we could do that. Well, we also could, like you said, go super small, and run it like that. Or we could run big point. It all depends what we want to do. But the
right,
main thing is the coach has to have the team ready to play any way he wants to play at all times, not
right,
just one way to play. And okay, it's not working. Oh, let me try this. It shouldn't be let me try this. Everybody should already know what it is. Like
right,
we practice this. We need okay, this is our regular sets, okay, but then we can go to this. We know we can go to this, and this is what we do when we do that. And then we can go to that. All should be part of the game plan. It shouldn't be a surprise, like, oh man, I don't know what we're gonna do. Let me try this guy.
mhm,
That's inexcusable to me, especially with somebody with a name like Tom Thibodeau. There's a lot of people that's vouching for Tom, because of his name. But I mean, like this guy's been coaching forever, man. You have to have your whole team ready at all times. Because I mean, all these great teams like Miami, San Antonio, the Golden State Warriors now, everybody's ready. No matter who they put in, these guys are ready to play. Yeah, and the Knicks are just not like that. I wish that we
I,
could be
I
like that.
I don't
I
think
think the
that's his
Knicks are ready.
fault,
I think
though.
the players are ready to play. The issue is more schemes with me
But
because
that's what I'm
when you
saying. I'm talking about the scheme, not necessarily the
oh,
players
okay,
themselves.
okay,
The players
okay,
are ready.
okay,
The players themselves are self-made. But I'm
okay.
talking about Tom Thibodeau knowing how to use these guys. A lot of these guys, they come in and then they never played with each other. In a certain way. You know.
Yeah. I mean, let me just read this super chat. Shout out to Donald Cannon. Shout out to Brooklyn. Did we have a better season? All them stars in first round sweep. I can deal with us since we had few talent, but them and then laughing. I mean, yeah, I mean they have their own issues over there that they have to work out. We got just as many over here, that we need to work out as well. But about Tibbs, I don't know if you read the article about how he has the pre-practice with the young guys. So they have the regular practice, and before that, they call it the early practice, is when the rookies come in, and RJ is in that group as well. So the young players, and they go over the plays over and over to make sure they know where they're supposed to be. Because that was one of the things I said is that wow, when they get their opportunity to play Sims, McBride, Grimes, or what have you, they may not score, but they really know where they're supposed to be. Like nobody really looks out of place. And that's what it comes down to, that he works with them in what's called early practice to make sure that they know where they're supposed to be. I thought that was interesting. All right. Anything else on running it back before we move to the next option? No. All right. So a lot of the fan base has been calling for going young. So, for example, let's start quickly. RJ, Grimes or Reddish, Obi, Mitch or Sims. I mean, and we'll go with that for a little bit. But I think what complicates it is that when you trade these vets, like we were talking about earlier, if you choose to do that, you're going to bring back players. So unless you're trading them all for expiring contracts, all for over the hill guys, all for draft picks, You're gonna bring back players that's gonna further crowd the point guard and the shooting guard and the small forward and the power forward um, position, right? You trade in Randall, you would think you're getting back a starter, right? But hypothetically speaking, what's your thoughts on moving off the vets and just going young? Ebro, I'll start with you and then I'll go with Tom.
Well, we mentioned it earlier. It's you're looking at $86 million. If we're talking about getting rid of Julius Evan, Derrick Rose, Alec Burks, Nolan Zawell, and Kemba Walker, that's all the top heavy guys that we have on the roster. That's $86 million. So even if we keep one or two of them, let's say if we keep Fournier, we trade Fournier and or Alex Burke, whatever, you're still talking about $40 million that you got to allocate. So I mean, like you're not going to trade those guys and all for salary dumps. And then even if you do that, you still have all that salary to use that must be used. So and you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not going to utilize that stuff, man. So that's people that are calling for the youth to play. You just got to keep that in mind, man. Yeah, of course we want to take advantage of some of the things that these guys do, but that's the point I'm trying to make. You are like Tom Thibodeau has to figure out a way to get everybody involved properly.
Right.
Use guys properly within the offense. And get them ready because at least if we know what these guys can do, then we can act accordingly. But right now we're kind of just blind, and everybody's on one side. Oh, we need to get rid of this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy, and we need a point guard. But I mean, to do what? That's my main argument. Well, to do what exactly? So we just, in my opinion, we just gotta just like calm down a little bit, and really, and we're really like stuck between a rock and a hard place with the front office and Tom Thibodeau and stuff. We just have to wait to see what happens, man. But playing the youth, I think organically it makes sense, to get these guys incorporated, but just to flat out dump the veterans and stuff like that, I think that's really, really hard to
To
imagine.
really carry out. And
Yeah,
and and I use the term vet lightly because these guys we talking about are not over the hill um grizzly vets, and I think that's been the forced narrative, so I don't really want to play into it either. That forced narrative throughout the season, the vets versus the younger. Randall's 26, 27. Fournier is 30. Guys in this league play until they 34, 35, 36, 30 years old. Is not old. Like, we're not talking about a 35. We're not talking about Carmelo Anthony. Like, we got teams full of 36 and 37 um year olds. Um so I get your point, Eru, that it's gonna be, even if that's what you want, it's gonna be difficult to pull it off.
right.
It's going to be difficult to pull it off. Maybe the Knicks can trade one or two players to open up a roster spot for Grimes or Reddish or something like that. But just wholesale getting rid of the older players, put it that way, it's just going to be difficult to pull off. But even if they could, it would not be a preference of mine. I'm tired of losing.
Yeah,
I'm tired of going to the lottery every single year. And I get it. I get the fan base. And I just want to say I listen to you guys. I read you in the chat. I listen to the panelists. It helps me modify my thinking. It challenges my thinking, you know, a little bit. But we've been building this since 2013. We've been in a lottery other than last year since 2013. We've been going to the lottery year after year after year after year, and we finally have a little bit of something, to show for it. I believe in letting these guys play as they earn time, play them more and more and more. But I don't believe that they're ready to start unless it's a lottery team. Like, if you're gonna be OKC and you're gonna be Detroit and you're gonna be Orlando, let them start. If you strike magic, you'll go to the playoffs. But for the most part, you don't really care about that. It's just about development. Me, I want the Knicks. Don't do anything crazy, right? Don't start trading young assets for 36-year-old LeBron so you could get to the playoffs one year. Like, don't go crazy, right? But there's nothing wrong with having a good mix of these very young players and also some young vets. So I guess my question is, if it was even feasible, Eru, would that be a path you would want?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's just it's a lot of things that's going on. I mean, I can come up with a scenario for everything that we said. That would make sense to me. I can, or if something happened, if the Knicks went with a certain way, I can make it work in my brain where it wouldn't hurt me as bad.
Hmm.
But I mean, I don't know. These young guys, I'm with it, man. There's a lot of, because I mean, there's a lot of guys that do a lot of good things, man. I think we could take advantage of a lot of the stuff that they do, man. But you know, I don't know. We're just kind of just like stuck here, man. We're stuck in it. We're stuck in limbo. We're like in the what they call the sunken place, waiting for someone to come save us out of there. You know?
Tony?
Um, I don't want that. There was a time where I did. There was a time when I did. And I understand your pain. Nicks and bruises. I understand. I understand it. But the way I'm looking at it, I'm looking at this regime. You know what I mean? I want to give them their due diligence, their full time to figure out what they want to do. Because not for nothing, even with this horrible year, right? With and I can't even say horrible. I'm gonna say just disappointing. You know what I mean? Because it was expectation. But first, let me say, when I wanted this to, like, the youth, young coach, the reason I wanted that and just build through the draft and is because I knew there would be no expectation. I knew it's really about watching these kids grow, seeing what we have in them, seeing who we can add to them, etc., right? But and then with this regime and this team, I felt like we was going that route, right? And this is why right after that playoff series, I was like, yo, that's the worst thing that could have happened to us getting that fourth seed. Because the expectation immediately it was, oh, we got to be fourth seed or better. Oh, we got to be sixth seed. You know what I mean? It wasn't about watching these guys grow anymore. It wasn't about um, seeing who they could become. It really became about that expectation of what we did and and moving forward. I felt like we skipped a step, and a lot of people didn't understand what I was saying, but that's what I was saying. It was like we didn't take that gradual. I would have preferred play in, make it in. You know what I mean? Play off, succeed, try to. You know what I mean? Because there's always going to be humps and hurdles. Even when you become a perennial playoff team,
Mhm.
it's going to be hurdles. It's going to be that one team that beats you three times that you just can't beat. It's going to be, you know what I mean, first round exit 2 years in a row. You can't get out the first round. Like that's part of the growth of a team. Um, I think we skipped a step, and now we're back down to where we. I think we're better than we should have been this year, and I think we last year we weren't as good as we seeded. I think this third year we're gonna see who we really are, and hopefully it's or obviously an improvement from last year. And then I want to enjoy the ride. You know what I mean? I think we have young enough guys that we can watch them grow and see who they become. None of our guys, all right, Rose is past his prime, obviously. Um, Taj is past his prime. Everybody else is either just entering their prime or haven't reached it yet. That's including Noel. Maybe Fournier might be in his prime, but everybody else is either just entering or hasn't reached it yet.
Right.
So let's see who they can become, right? I mean,
Well, that's if you run it right. That's to the run it. That's
well,
to the
with,
running it
with
to
tweaks,
running it
with
back.
tweaks, with tweaks.
We're gonna get to that option right now. We're gonna
Well,
get to this. Yeah, go ahead.
one thing with the Utah I want to add is just
Mhm.
that you want to talk about vets like Julius Randle, not Julius Randle. Archie's a vet now. You're entering his third year. What's the name? Mitchell Robinson is going to be entering his fourth year. I mean, these guys are legit veterans now. And then not to mention too, you want to talk about like
RJ's entering
age.
his fourth next year, and Mitch is going to be entering his fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. It's even worse. I mean, that's grizzled veterans right there. That's grizzled veterans. Then you want to talk about age. You talk about 27, 21, 29, 30. You got 23. Some of these other guys, 27, 21, 23, 22. That's kind of old, man. Like you're talking about going into your prime. Once you get to like the 23, 25, then you're starting to enter your prime at that point. So, I mean, we have a lot of old rookies, kind of, sort of.
Maybe now it's a little younger. You're seeing guys enter their prime, but I'm saying typically, and we're around the same age, Eru.
Yeah.
Guys didn't really enter their prime until 27. Actually,
Yeah.
there, you know what I mean. There was a time where their prime wasn't even until 30, and it was like
Right.
a 6-year window. I think the window has gotten wider now, where guys are coming in younger and being who you know what I mean, who they're gonna. Their prime years are different now.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
No, I get it. I mean, the one thing I will say to Eru's point is we have a lot of like RJ's entering into his fourth year. We're just now beginning to see who he is.
Yeah, it's
Mitch is
crazy.
going into his fifth year. He's still inconsistent. We just now getting the tip of, what Mitch is going to be. So we got guys who are developing, but I don't know if the word is slow. I just would have liked to have seen a bit more by now.
Right.
A bit more by now. And that's the issue I'm having with our young guys is their ceiling is high, but we have no idea who these guys are gonna be. Like to me, RJ is the only one that I feel like is rounding into shape where you kind of get a sense of who he's gonna be. IQ can continue to ascend or he can drop off. Obi can continue to ascend or he could drop off. RJ's the only one. But listen, IQ and Obi is just their second year, so that's to be expected.
and
I
Queen,
guess.
I think RJ could drop off too. You know what I mean? Like, I think
Yeah,
as we
yeah,
can see, Randall dropped off this year, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
that's what I mean. Like, it's still, it's really like everybody's not gonna really be like the outliers. You know what I mean? It's if you're lucky, you got one on every team. You know what I mean? Like, and then when you look at
Yeah.
that one, you got to look at like, well, what did it take for him to become that guy? Was he that guy like right out of college? Did it for a rookie year? Did it take him? You know what I mean? Was it after the rookie contract?
Hmm.
Um, Even like a guy like D'Lo, who I think he might be just entering his prime as well, right?
Yeah, I
But
think so.
he's taking leaps. You know what I mean? It was times where he was considered, you know what I mean? Maybe he shouldn't be a starter and things of that nature. Can he run a
Right,
team?
right,
It
right,
takes
right, right.
some time for different people.
Yeah, no doubt
Um,
about it. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, that's a good point. All right, moving down to what I think is the last option because swinging for the fences, I just can't imagine. Even if the Knicks swung, and I'm not a proponent of this, I never was, and brought in Dame, our roster is so not there that I don't that would not even make a difference. So swinging for the fences to me is not an option. Well, what about bringing this team back with some tweaks? Um, what would the tweak be? Obviously, we're talking about, you know, I shouldn't say obviously. I mean, there's some of the fan base who feel like, we don't need to bring in a point guard. Quickly is ready. Start him at point guard. Back him up with Derrick Rose if he's healthy. I'm of the mindset if we can get a point guard, bring one in, back him up with quickly and Rose. I'm okay with moving on from Rose. And for me, I just think quickly is on his way. I just think he needs a little more seasoning in terms of shot selection, decision making, and knowing because he's very confident and because he can shoot and he can get in the lane and score, knowing when do I take my shot and go for mine and when do I set people up. If you have a point guard that doesn't have those skills, that's not even something they need to work out. They know they're going to pass first because they're not a shooting type, scoring type guard, but quickly is. So that's something he has to learn. Pick his spots. When do I go for mine? When do I pass off, run the offense? I think he still needs a little more seasoning in that respect, but he's on his way. He's on his way. My preference would be a point guard and back him up with quickly. But in terms of running this team back with some tweaks, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know, man. I'm like scrolling through the league right now. I'm trying to see who's available. I mean, like who's out there that we could possibly make that type of trade to do that. Because I mean, like,
Yes,
look at the
true.
Pelicans. The Pelicans, they have Bi there. They went and traded for CJ McCollum. That got them to where they are now. So they got a little bit better. I mean, I feel like if the Knicks did make a trade similar and we got like that extra, I mean, because CJ McCollum's a 20-point a game scorer. If we traded for somebody like that, then maybe that would take us to like take us a little higher. But who is that
Who'd you
guy?
say?
Was that?
Who'd you say?
I was saying
McCollum.
like with TJ McCollum when he went to the Pelicans.
Right.
The Knicks could possibly do something like that. But I'm just kind of like looking around, like, where's that player? Who is that player that we would bring here like that? That would do
Well,
that.
they didn't know McCullum would be available, so maybe somebody that we don't know. But what I want to say to the McCullum thing is, it's very interesting because the Pelicans are a young team, and they brought in a McCullum who's what, 28, 29, 30,
Yeah.
something like that. But what I'm starting to think, because I was a big timeline person myself, everybody has to fit the same timeline. Not really, because they have Bi, they have Zion, you know, as a young core. McCullum comes in for 3, 4 years, then he retires. By the time he retires, Bi and Zion should have taken many more steps and be ready to kind of take over his role. Then you can bring in a vet with less usage. So I used to think like, nah, I don't want to bring in a vet with a young team, especially if they're a high usage guy. It made New Orleans better. It got them in the playoffs. It got them hungry. It got them, the excitement in the fan base. Bi getting that experience. And if he's just there for 2, 3 years, so what? He moves on. Bi is better for it, and you bring in somebody else.
Yeah, most runs in the NBA they last maybe like 2 to 5 years anyway. The
Right.
best runs, championship runs, they last 5. But most good teams they only stay together maybe like 2 or 3 years. Even going this far back as like say Golden State with the Run TMC. When Run TMC, if you think about it, it only lasted like 2 seasons. What people talk about is if it lasted 10. It didn't last that long.
Right.
So that this is one example, man. But just throughout the
Right.
history of the NBA, like most teams don't really stay together that long like
Right.
that.
I'm wondering. I mean, this is my dream. This is my dream scenario with a core of Brunson, RJ, and Aiton. I mean, Aiton is restricted. Um, so I'm not sure the Knicks will be able to, that would have to be a sign and trade, and Phoenix would have to know that they're not going to, um, you know,
You know,
re-sign him.
Aiden is probably like the only guy that I'm looking at this because I'm just looking around the league. I can't really find anybody out there aside from the kid on the Thunder. What's his name? Shea Alexander.
Gilgis Alexander. Mhm.
Yeah, he's a guy that's just on the team for no reason over there. I don't know what they're doing in OKC. They just signed him and they're not trying to build around him or anything. So I mean, would they be willing to take a couple pieces and get another draft pick dump on just to get him out of there? Because I mean, adding a player like him to this roster would do wonders for us, you know. But I mean, outside of that, I don't really see anybody else that really sticks out, that we can really pry away from somebody, you know.
But what about the idea of bringing this team back with a tweak or two? Do you like that better than just bringing the team back, or you feel like, hey, we just need to run it back? We don't even need tweaks. We're going to be okay. We have what we need on the roster.
I don't know, man. I mean, I feel we could do that, but I just don't know who is that person. Who are we gonna go for to make that tweak? Like, because I mean, like if you're gonna get like a young defensive wing or something like that, we got Cam Reddish on the roster. If you want to get like a young shooter or something, we got Quentin
Right.
Grimes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
already have all those answers on the roster. You know, so that's the thing. If you want to get a veteran point guard, we got Derrick Rose sitting right there. You know, but like the main things, I think Walker's definitely out of here. You know, Nerlens the there's some and Nerlens runs on the roster. So I mean, Tom Thibodeau might play him 48 minutes next year. You know, so I don't know, man. It's a lot of stuff going on here. But I like I'm just trying to pinpoint a player. I don't really see anybody that we really pull away from a team. You know.
Do you think Randall will be here, and do you want him here? Ebro, I haven't gotten your take on that.
Well, I mean, after his outbursts all year, and this is just everything he's been bringing as far as his emotions and stuff like that is the wrong emotions. So I feel like he just needs to go, you know. But I mean, if he can like maybe see a sports psychologist or something, and maybe have a conversation with the Knicks front office and have a conversation with his own players to figure out where this is coming from, because he kind of just isolates himself. You know, he's like an island and everybody's on the outside. You know, he's just there, you know, dealing with all this stuff, but not expressing it anywhere. You know, so if they can come to like some kind of like a conclusion with this whole thing, then maybe we can move on into the next season, and then just work something out, and how, you know, just how we naturally just evolve as a team. But if I mean, that's a lot. You know, I just said a
No,
lot.
no, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
no, you're right. You're right.
we got to get Dr. Phil in here on the coaching staff. It's like crazy. So I mean, like, you know, I mean, if they do that, because it's not so far from the imagination. If they did do that, then it could work. But I mean, chances are, you know, not chances are, because I mean, the NBA, these rich players, they can do anything they want to do. You know what I'm saying? And then they'll blame us and say that we're the ones that made them do that. You know, so you know, I mean, it could be fixed from within. But for me personally, I would rather just get that attitude out of here, and then just move forward with the guys that we have here. Keep the personalities the same and just build that way. That's what I would like to do.
Okay. Okay. That's yeah. Yeah. So if you do that, then you're starting IQ. Keep it at the same start IQ. Back them up with roles. We have what we need on the roster.
You know, it doesn't really feel good to say that either. But I mean, it's just that who are we going to grab? I know, Brunson is the main guy that's out there, but you know, outside of that, you're talking about like old guys like you mentioned Dame. There's John Wall is out there just dangling. You got Westbrook and then those type of people. Outside of that, oh, you had mentioned that kid from the Timberwolves. Um,
He's with Memphis now.
right.
Tyrus Jones, who's going to be a unrestricted free agent, and he's playing well. Let me just read it off. The issue with him is that he hasn't played more than 23 minutes a game. So, so per 75 possessions, which is similar to like per 36, 14.6 points, 7.5 assists, 1.9 threes, 1.5 steals, and just 1.1 turnovers. He shoots 39% from three. He averages 4 assists and less than a turnover a game in those 23 minutes. And if you remember, when Ja went down, you know, he was the one, Tyrus Jones was the one backing him up. And Memphis was over 500. They still had a winning record when Ja was out. And you might be able to get him for just a mid-level exception,
They
which is
said
like 10 million. But can he start in it? Is he ready to start? I don't know.
they said that's the best turnover percentage in NBA history, I believe.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Small sample size. But there's other players out there too, but they come with other question marks. Brogdon, the injury history, right? We talked about him when we did the Dope Soul podcast. Schroeder, can he regain his form for 2 years ago when he was in the running for sixth man of the year? Or who we've seen for the last 2 years? Is that really who he is? Colin Sexton, would the Cavs be interested in moving on from him? But he's coming off of an injury. Ricky Rubio, who's older, also coming off of an injury. So those options are out there. The question is, would it be better than Quickly and Rose?
Right. Well, the and Rose it hurts me too because he makes $14 million a year. So it's not like he makes like 5 or 10 million. He makes makes 14. So I mean, like, you know, you can't ignore him on the roster. Then we still got Deuce too. So I mean, you can't ignore these guys on the roster. If you end up wasting not wasting, but using your assets to get another point guard, you're gonna have to get rid of some of these point guards to use that to fill in the other spot. So it's
Yeah.
just like we just doing like this. Hopefully something sticks. Which is
Yeah.
not, and I'm not saying that's not the right thing to do, but I mean we could do that, but we just have to think, how
Right.
we just gonna move one piece
Yeah,
to
no, I hear you. I think we're in a rock and a hard place. I don't in my opinion, I don't think quickly is the best decision, but these other options that we're talking about, you know, um, are they better?
Yeah, I like Tyus though because he played well in Minnesota also. When
Yeah,
he was given opportunity, whatever. I don't understand why they got rid of him. He's a good
yeah,
basketball player.
yeah, yeah. He is short. B baller.
Mm-hmm.
For for what is that? B baller for real. He is short. I think he's about 6'1", but so is Colin Sexton. Solid Colin Sexton is only about 6'1".
Sexton got that wingspan though.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, long arms.
yeah, yeah.
um, I, this is why I love Eru, because you asked him if Julius should go, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm ready for him to move us to move on from him." But then he gave a solution for him to stay. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like at least like that's what I love because I know you think of everything. You know what I mean? Like he can
well,
stay, but he got to see a psychiatrist.
That's
Or,
the same thing I said
right.
too.
But I mean,
Yeah,
I
he
don't
just
think there's anything wrong with that. Like
right.
I think a lot of players should. Like I don't think it's a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like so I mean I agree with that aspect. I think there's things that he needs to do for him to stay. The fact that he said he wants to be here, if he's sincere in that, then I think he'll do what he needs to do, or at least adjust mentally, because he can't not understand why the things that have happened happen. You know what I mean? Like he can't not understand that some of his reactions and actions have been wrong on many
but
levels.
can he fix them though? That's the thing. Like sometimes, listen, I work with people
I
and
know
they'll
we was
tell me, I know they'll have remorse
Mhm.
afterwards and they'll say, I know that was the wrong thing. But in the moment is 0 to 100
Mhm.
and they can't really control it. So
Yeah,
is he one of those, is he one of those
I mean,
guys?
I hope not,
I hope not. Yeah.
but if he has the remorse, let's say now in the off season, you know what I mean. Like it can't be a repetitive thing. Now, if it's a repetitive thing, then yeah, we're gonna have to figure out how to move on from him. I don't think
It's been repetitive. You don't
it's
think?
repetitive this season. Yes,
Yes, this season. Yes.
with the turmoil of the season as well. You know what I mean. So I mean, I'm not justifying it, but I'm sure the losing is part of it. You know what I mean? Let's see if we
It
can.
might happen next year too. The
And yeah, we
losing.
might lose. I'm saying let's
Yeah.
hope we don't lose, and then we don't got to worry about that. You know
right.
what I'm saying? That's what
That's
I'm
a
saying.
high bar though. That we
I
gotta
mean,
win in order for him,
I
to
mean,
be,
not
to be
not for
straight.
nothing. The majority of, like, if you want to just put it in layman's term, play better, you won't get booed. You know what I mean? And
Right.
maybe it's too late for that, but there was a point where it was as simple as play better and you won't get booed. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
But
and
that's a
again,
different bar. Basically, you're saying if we win, then we don't have to worry about his antics because he'll be better if we win. Like
It's
what?
crazy.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, I
Right.
think that's a bit much,
I'm saying if he plays better, then we win more, and then
Well,
we win
that's what I'm
more.
saying. He needs
Like,
to
I
get a
think
psychiatrist to
it's
get him
really
some
just
pills. Maybe the pills will help him out or something to calm him
nah,
down a
man.
little. Some
I
kind of
don't, I
social
don't, I
anxiety or whatever the hell's going on with him.
Yeah, I'm okay moving on from Julius Randle. I just don't think they're going to be able to. And um, if they do, you got to bring back a starter. You can't be a salary dump. It can't be draft picks. You got to bring back
a
a
starter
starter.
at what position?
Doesn't matter. And
Yeah.
that's the point I'm trying to make when we talking about trading these older players. Whoever you bring back is going to crowd a spot, whether it's the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5 position. There's just no way around it.
Right.
There's no way around it.
I think one, if you are trading Randall, more than likely they trading a lot more than just Randall. Like it's gonna be a bunch of different moves going. So I think it doesn't necessarily have to be a crowded return. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's gonna be hard to move him if they want to move him. I really don't. I
Oh, I
don't
don't
think
think so
I
either.
don't think he's making a astronomical amount of money. Um, the the same way we have a bunch of guys, 3, 4 guys that we could trade for a guy making Randall money or more, and they're all coming off the books. I'm sure there's another a bunch of teams out there that have
Oh, absolutely.
2 or 3 of
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
guys.
It's
Yeah.
not gonna be hard. It's not
So
gonna be
I
hard
don't
to
think
trade him.
it's really hard to move them. I
And I
think
don't think you're gonna have to move 2 and 3, 4, 5 people with him. I
no,
think
no,
you
not
can
with
move him
him.
by himself.
I'm saying other moves are gonna come down the
Mm,
pipeline. I'm not saying with them, not combined. I
right.
think it changed. Then you start looking at a real youth movement, a draft pick motivated. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to see that. I do not want to see that.
Yeah, listen, in a
I do not
perfect
want to see
world,
that.
like Eru said, in a perfect world, Randall does what he needs to do this summer and he comes back and he's ready to play and he's engaged, whether we're winning or not. Because part of the reason we're not winning and you're getting frustrated is because of your play. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And that's what kills me about people who lose in the playoffs and they want to leave the team. Well, the reason y'all lost in the playoff has something to do with how you played. You know what
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Come on. So, if he comes back and he's engaged, listen, he's a talent. Even with this season, subpar season, he was still 20, 10, and 5 with all the antics or whatever. So he is a talent. But if he can't put it together and be there, come on.
And
It
only LeBron and Giannis with the other two players to average those numbers. And
Right.
LeBron ain't make the playoffs either.
yeah,
and
no, it's
Giannis,
true.
and
But
Giannis
his
is
but his
MVP.
mental is straight, and
No,
Giannis
no, I
mental is
know.
straight.
I was just
Yeah,
adding to your stats.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. He's a talented player, but you know, he
There's a
giveth in
lot of
one
things going.
hand and taketh away with another.
And as far as Aiton, I like the move. I wish I don't think it's
Gonna
realistic
happen. Yeah,
unless they really want to move on from him. You know what I mean? Because it goes back down to the whole sign and trade thing. Probably double sign and trade. Maybe they have the interest in Mitch because obviously not they're gonna need a center if they lose in that center. And on top of that, what else is it gonna cost? Because I'm sure a draft pick is gonna be involved in that first round draft pick. And even with Mitch getting whatever money he gets, I don't think it's gonna be the same money that Aiton demands or commands, I should say. So we're probably still gonna have to throw in some more salary to make it match. So we're talking sign and trade with Mitch, whatever he agrees to. I'm assuming it's not gonna be more than 15 million a year, and I'm thinking Aiton's gonna be somewhere in the 22 million range. So we still gonna have about 5, 6, 7 million to kind of make the money match, and then draft compensation. But I still do it. I would do it. I wouldn't hesitate. Um, did either of you guys happen to see my show from earlier today with Sim?
no,
No.
Okay.
I
Well,
didn't know you. Yeah. Oh, so you went on earlier?
yeah, I
Okay.
did. I
What are
did.
you guys talking about?
I'm only gonna give you a little sneak peek.
You gotta read the book,
You
right?
gotta.
You gotta buy the book.
But there you guys, go check it out. It's not long. I believe it's under an hour. Yeah, it's about 25 minutes or so. So, and the chat, Nicks and Bruises, go check it out. Me and Sim, we did quick hits with Sim. It's a little thing I'm doing with Sim every now and again. Um, but yeah, we talked about Brunson and Miles Turner and how it could happen, what would need to happen for it to happen. Um, So we go into a little bit of details of how we could get those two guys on board, and we also talked about Rick Brunson. Jaden's dad basically said something about there's not going to be any type of discount or
Right.
or for the Mavs. The Mavs had come out and said, oh, we are not interested in helping in a sign and trade
Hmm.
for Jaden Brunson. So, I mean, we went into detail about what those two things meant. But
Yeah.
basically, we're gonna have to come up with the cap space to
We're
sign
gonna have to
Brunson.
come up with the cap space. Yeah, we talked
And
about that earlier as well,
so we,
in the
we kind
show.
of broke that down. And that's what I'm rocking with, man. Bringing Brunson in, getting a guy like Miles Turner who changes the dynamic of the center position, because I agree with Eru that we kind of have everything we need except that a center who could kind of stretch the floor.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, I know Quinn, you've been high on Miles Turner for a while. You talked him up a few times, and I'm with you now. Um,
But the injuries is my
yeah,
concern
it,
with him.
it I agree. I agree. It is taking a risk. But in this in this thing we broke down, you we still have Mitch. It's contingent on obviously Mitch, which I know he's willing to do, fight for the starting position again,
Hmm.
and live with the results of it. But
But
obviously,
do you want, like, so how much we signing Mitch for? Because basically they're gonna be platooning and sharing minutes like 24, 24, 26, 22.
I
Yeah,
mean,
Mitch was like fighting verbally for that because he's tired of doing cardio. He wants to do something else. He said.
He
listen,
did say that.
he can fight. He does want to do more. Um, he can still do more. Like basically, if we're resigning him, well, we came up with two scenarios: one with Mitch, one without. So it would either be Mitch or Sims, and Sims is still on the team. Both scenarios, just one he's situational,
Right. And the
and
other one
and
he's,
and one he's
yeah, I'm gonna check that out because I'm interested in how much money is gonna go into that center position because that's what you got to think about.
hmm
You sign in, I think Turner has what 18 million or something like that, and then Mitch, if you pay him 10, just say
hmm
that's $28 million in the center position.
And you still got
That's a lot.
Nerlens on the roster too.
Yeah.
He's making 10 also. So.
maybe not.
Oh snap! I don't know. But I like the idea of Miles though. If you was to get Brunson, then you get Miles, and then you
And
just
then
work. Now you have a Tibbs roster now. You
and
know,
and go watch the video. But there's more moves involved. Obviously some players that are on this team wouldn't still be on this team. Um,
Right.
but
Because it
I
would
know
have to be a signing, and we would have to trade for him.
for
Turner.
Miles,
Yeah,
yes,
we would have to trade for him. Yeah,
yep. And
a
I
lot of
think he
people
only
will
I
be
think he only
pissed too.
has 1 year left, right?
Yeah, I
I
think
believe
something like
so.
that. Yeah.
So even with that, it becomes it's 28 whatever $million in the at the
Mhm.
center position, but now we have a year of him and we can make a decision. Is he worth 18 or more moving forward, even with his injury history?
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what I mean? I
I
don't,
don't know.
if you re-signing him, maybe it's incentive based. You got to play certain amount of games to get certain amount of money.
The conversation is
I
going
don't,
to be interesting because doing a move like that. We'll be catering to Tibbs, so we'll be building around Tibbs. So a lot of people, Twitter's already disgusting as it is, man. So I mean, it's going to get even worse.
You mean
Knowing that.
building around him in the sense that Miles Turner is a rim protector?
Well, I mean, building around him,
these type
just
of players.
the way that we play. We were still gonna be running the ball through Julius. Brunson will probably be the secondary player behind him. Miles Turner will still be like use it, the way that we use our current guys. It would just
That
be
can't work.
yeah.
Like that can't work. Like that's the point of. So for me,
Bringing Brunson in, I get you.
it, then play quickly then because basically RJ and Randall will still be the point guards dominating the ball. And now you have Quickly there who could just shoot the three when they feel like they want to pass it. You
Not for
know,
nothing. I really believe Randall being at that game was them telling him we need to find a point guard to do the point guard duties and somebody who could find you. Look, he plays with Luca. You know what I mean? Like, even though Luca didn't play, but look, he plays with a dominant ball handling guy. You know what I mean? But he's helping that team. Like, we need to get some of that responsibility off your hands.
but that's the coaching staff. Like that's what I don't understand. It's like nobody wants to touch Randall. Maybe I don't know about scared of him, but like maybe he flies off the handle so much that they don't really know how to deal with him. Two things. All of that emotional stuff should have been nipped in the butt between Tibbs and the front office, in terms of holding him accountable. You don't have to do it in public, but you have to hold him accountable. Second, nobody can't tell him. There's nobody that feels comfortable enough to say, we're not a good team when you handle the ball. We're
I
bringing
think
in a point guard. And if you're still on this team, we bringing in this point guard. Your role is to run down the court with no ball in your hand and get to your position. We will find you. The coaching staff should be able to do that.
but
I
yo,
agree, but I don't even think it's that serious. You know what I mean? It's really like
You don't think it's
I
that
don't
him handling the ball is that
know
serious?
because the way you're saying it, it sounds like you can never handle it. Like, you get the rebound, you give it to the point guard. I think at times you still want him to use that ability to get a rebound and push it up court, or at least look up court to see what. You know
Push
what I
it
mean?
up the court, and when you get it across, give it to
Yeah,
the point
yeah,
guard. Yeah,
obviously,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah. That's fine.
yeah,
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
well, I
It's
mean,
just
but
him.
I think
It's
I
the
don't know if we
decision
had.
making. He wants to
I don't
bring
think
it
we
up and
had that.
decide.
I don't think we had that this year though. You know what I mean? Kimber didn't really work out, right? Rose was hurt. Quickly didn't get the opportunity to at least start in that position to do it. But when he finished games, you know what I mean? Like, I think he got his opportunities, and Randall respected his time on the floor with Quickly enough to look for him. You know what I mean? Look for him as if he looked
well,
But
the,
that's
the
the
not
way the way
problem.
that we
He's
ran
not
point
looking
look
for
guards,
away from
Quickly.
him.
I want it to be the other way around. Quickly looking
right?
for him.
Yeah, no. But again, I don't know if he. You're right. You're right. But he didn't get a opportunity to start in that position. So maybe like with Burks, Burks got to bring the ball up. You know what I mean? Whenever he was on the court. So I think the difference is when Randall asked for the ball, he got it. You know what I mean? Like, wherever and however he was, and then it switched later on. Like, we started seeing RJ being the guy that got the ball. So who's why is it any different, or why are we to think that that's gonna change? Because that it wasn't like RJ got his opportunity with Randall gone. Randall was on the floor and the ball was going through RJ at the end of the season.
I mean, I think what
I think that's
changes.
going to continue.
I think, yeah, but see, I don't have a problem with RJ initiating offense because we got to make. There's a difference between bringing the ball down the court and passing it to the point guard, and bringing the ball down the court and initiating the offense and being the playmaker.
Your own post position, everything. He's like,
Right,
it's just
right. I think RJ is a better decision maker than
Mm,
Randall.
I,
You know,
I don't I disagree. I'll say and the reason I disagree is because I think RJ's primary decision is to score. Look to score first.
that is true. He does have tunnel
It-
vision. He does have
so,
tunnel vision
and
sometimes.
granted, he's been a much better playmaker this
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But his
yeah.
primary thought process is, all right, I got the ball. Let me figure out how to score, and then he makes the read off of that. And
Right,
to be
right.
honest, I wouldn't mind if that's what Randall did. Look to score. Let that be your primary. I think, and I said this early in the year, and I think I probably said it wrong. Hopefully, I could say it better. But I think his problem was he was looking for He wanted the double team, the triple team. He wanted that for him to make his decision.
Right.
You know what I mean? He waited for it, and it's not playing basketball. He wasn't letting the game. He wasn't playing off the game. He wasn't
Right.
reading and reacting. He
Right.
was trying to force a read so he could react.
Right.
Right.
Where if he looked to score first, and I think a point guard, a Brunson would help that, because now you don't have to worry about
Getting
facilitating.
everybody else involved.
Exactly.
Right.
He's gonna do that. You know
Right.
what I mean? He's gonna make that decision. When
Right.
you get the ball, your decision is score. Find
Right.
a way to score. You're hopefully in a position to score when he gives it to you, because
Right.
that's how he gives it to you. Know what I mean?
No,
And
I get it. And if you're double teamed, then
now
you can
you can
play off
read
of
and
that.
react.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the problem with that though is that like when Julius Randle has the ball in his hand, he's bringing the ball up and down the court. The point guard is going into the corner. The point guard is standing in the corner, so that's the big problem there. If it was opposite, if it was the point guard bringing the ball up and excuse me, Julius going to the corner, then you could run action to get Julius Randle the ball to score. You know what I'm saying? Now our point guard Deuce McBride and Kemba and all these guys are standing there waiting for the ball to come to them. It should be the opposite. The point guard should be the one, looking to get the ball to Julius standing there in the corner. So those roles need to flip. And I think the coaching staff is at odds too, because Tom Thibodeau keeps running the same thing, no adjustments. Remember that dude that brought the computer out and was trying to
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
Julius Randle and Julius to stop the computer out of his hand? I
Right.
think that's what they were saying. They said, listen, I'm trying to show you what you're doing wrong, what's not working. This is what you're
Right.
doing. And he, man, get that out of my face type of thing.
Right.
That can't happen. I think that's the major problem with what's happening with this thing. There's no communication about what's actually happening, but as it is to what they want to do. They want to do something, but they're not, reacting to what's actually happening out there.
Right. Cully said, yes, let a point guard be a point guard. That's it. And I think that's going to be on the coaching staff, because Randall's so used to playing that way. It's not going to be easy. It's not
Yeah.
going to be easy. That transition is not going to be easy for him. The coaching staff is going to have to reiterate that. Give it up, go down the court. Give it up, go down the court. Even if you bring it over half court, give it up. And get to your
We
spots.
just
I
need better
agree, though. It does have to do
offense.
with the coaching as well, because I mean, if you got sets, then you run it. You run a set. You know what I mean? It happens to be the set is go to Red, give the ball to Randall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's how they run their plays. So
Well,
it is going to have to be an adjustment. Those plays are still there. They still exist. They
Right,
still can be used.
right,
All you're doing is opening up the playbook.
correct.
You know what I
Right,
mean? Opening up the options. We that's still in the playbook. You
right,
know what I mean?
right. You're gonna still get the ball. You're gonna still get your touches. Maybe you'll be fresher from not bringing the ball down the court so much. Maybe you worrying about less. Maybe that'll help your decision making process, because you're not worrying about playmaking and facilitating for the entire team. You're just reading and reacting when you get the ball. So maybe that
Well,
helps.
we need to do a lot
Be,
more reading
be
reaction,
more.
because Julius Randle gets the rebound, runs down, and sets up his own post position. That's got to stop. That's coaching stuff, because we'll sit and do that 4 or 5 times straight down the court. Another thing too is that we do that on dribble handoff, where the guy goes from one side of the court to the next, and now you're standing there with 4 guys around one guy going 1-on-1. How many times did we do that, especially down in the fourth quarter? These are things that need to be eliminated for what we do, man. It
Yeah.
just destroys everything that we're trying to do, or any advantage that we have on the court. And it's all on Tom, because Tom always reverts to these same different things, and that's how we lose games down the stretch. You know,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. Hopefully Tibbs is watching each game 2, 3, 4, 5 times again and figuring out how to maximize this roster. Because when you look at the salary cap, I'm not sure how much changes we're going to be able to make this upcoming season. Maybe one or two, maybe. So yeah, remains to be seen. Any last words?
I'm just gonna say we looked at the salary cap too. we got we
Okay.
got some, we got some answers. So, but I'm glad I made the show, Queen. I'm sorry I was late.
Nah, I
Um,
appreciate you
Shout
showing
out
up
to
at
the chat.
all.
Eru, it's always a pleasure. You know, on a podcast with you, whichever one it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I enjoy your takes
I've
as
been
well.
checking out with you guys. I haven't been able, I haven't had the time to hang out. So it's good to take a break
You
from what
could
I'm
come on
doing. Just
any show, any Monday you feel like hanging out. Just say, Steph, send me the link. You got it.
all right, cool.
Same
Because I
here.
mean, I got a potty mouth, so sometimes I need to calm myself down. So I come over here, relax, and then I'll go back to my channel with all the f bombs and stuff that I be throwing over there.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely appreciate y'all, coming on. Check out the video that Tony did with Sam on Nixon and Bruises. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Same thing with Eru. He got his banner, Die Hard Knicks podcast. If you haven't already, subscribe to his channel as well. During the season, he does halftime to crunch time. I gotta come on at half. I gotta come. But I'm just no good like watching a game and trying to comment at this. I'm just not
I'll
good at
be
it.
honest, Eru. That was the only problem because one, it'd be a time difference too, the time delay on one of us.
Right.
So
Right.
it'd be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Well, I already
But
been
it's
to
good
that
to have
coach's
guests
corner.
that come in halftime.
yep,
You
Yeah.
guys come in at
the little
halftime and
15 minutes.
then break out.
Yeah, well, we I already been to the coach's corner. I mean, the Queen's Court. I mean, when we was at the thing, you was all on your side, watching your own TV and whatever. You didn't want to be involved with nobody else is saying. You was in your own little Queen's Court there. So that's a
I
real
was
thing.
focused in. It was like 50 people on one TV. I was like, nah, I gotta focus in. Um, But yeah, I appreciate all of you. I'm rocking with us tonight. I dropped on Dope Soul Sports Talk. If you haven't already, that's my channel. Please subscribe to that as well. I dropped my IQ and OB video a few hours ago. And then tomorrow I'll be talking to bigs. I'll be talking to power forwards and center position going live. So if you guys are available, you can join. But check that out as well. And this channel right here, Nothing But Knicks. Obviously, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification button. I appreciate all of you rocking with us.